Our world runs on this idea that more means freedom, but the pursuit of more things, more standing, more experiences, it starts to feel like a cage. We think acquiring endlessly will free us, and instead we end up more tied down. That's the real contradiction. About 2,000 years back, a philosopher, Epictetus, he flipped this whole notion. He said freedom isn't about getting what you desire, it's about removing the desire itself. That idea goes right to the heart of it, so we're going to look at that. Epictetus's argument that real liberty comes from limiting what you want, not satisfying it. We'll touch on Stoic ideas, the split between what you can control and what you can't. What actually counts as good, and some mental practices, things you can apply now. Framework, a way to take back your own autonomy from a world that needs you to always want more. Epictetus was born a physical slave. He became a master of a different kind of freedom, and that wisdom, it has direct bearing on the stress you feel, the choices you make every day. What's a desire you have that might actually be holding you? What if the way we're taught to pursue what we want actually makes us less free? That's the paradox Epictetus pointed to. He wasn't advocating for a bare, grim life. He meant something more precise, a removal of chains, but inside. For him, freedom wasn't an external condition. It wasn't about money or where you lived or what you owned. Freedom was autonomy inside your own mind, your mind answering only to itself, and he saw that any desire you don't master becomes a hook. A point where the outside world can grab you and pull. Your desire for a promotion. That means your boss's opinion controls your mood, your craving for validation. That means a stranger's comment can ruin your afternoon. Your need for a certain lifestyle, a market crash, or an unexpected bill can send you into fear. That's the modern shape of it. We call it fear of missing out, anxiety of choice, pressure to keep up. To Epictetus, it was the same old trap. He said it directly. Freedom is secured not by fulfilling desires, but by removing desire. Let that sit. Happiness and liberty, they don't come from finally getting the thing you chase. They come from looking at that thing and realizing you don't need it to be okay. Your peace becomes separate from its arrival. Think of two people when a new piece of technology comes out. The first feels a gnawing need for it. They believe their happiness, their identity, is incomplete without it. They check for updates. They feel envy. If they can't get it, they feel genuine loss. Their emotional state is hostage to an object. The second person looks at the same device. They might appreciate its design. They might think it's clever, but they feel no internal pull. Having it or not makes no difference to their core contentment. Which person is free regarding that gadget? The one who possesses it but through craving and temporary satisfaction, or the one who is indifferent? The mental energy saved is enormous. The potential for disappointment just vanishes. That's the practical power of limiting desire. It's not about rejecting good things. It's about breaking the invisible leash that ties your well-being to them. So here's a small experiment. Look at your life right now. Identify one desire for an object, an outcome at work, a reaction from someone. Now ask, how would I feel today, right now, if I genuinely cared less about whether this happens? Not if I gave up entirely, but if I loosened my grip, if I made my peace contingent on something internal instead. You might find the immediate sensation isn't loss. It's a surprising, subtle lightness. Epictetus starts with a line, a single line. Some things are up to us and some things are not. That's the first thing he says. It sounds simple, but it's everything. What's up to us, our judgments, what we intend, what we want, what we try to avoid, the actions we choose. What's not up to us? Our bodies, what we own, our reputation, our job, what other people do, the weather, the past, the future, all of that. And freedom, real freedom, comes from putting all your hope, all your energy into that first part. The part you command, and pulling back from the second, the part you don't. Where desire gets dangerous is when it attaches to what's not up to us. If you want a specific job, that outcome is with the hiring committee. You've tied your happiness to their choice. You've given them the remote control to how you feel. So limiting desire is about redirecting it. It's not about wanting nothing. It's about wanting only what you can actually govern. You stop wanting the job. You start wanting to prepare for the interview impeccably. You stop wanting someone to treat you well. You start wanting to act with integrity yourself. That's not passive, that's agency, focused, intense. All your effort goes into your own sphere. The result, whatever it is, you meet it with a kind of calm because you never bet your piece on it. Think of a gardener. A good gardener doesn't desire a specific harvest on a specific day. The weather, the soil, 100 things are outside her control. What's up to her is tending the soil, planting good seeds, watering diligently. She desires to do those things well. The harvest will be what it will be. Her freedom is in the tending, not the yield. That's the shift. So think of a worry, one thing on your mind. Draw that line in your thoughts. What parts are truly up to you? Your preparation, your attitude, your next action, and what parts are not? Other people's reactions, final outcomes, events you can't dictate. Just that act of sorting, it begins to loosen the grip. It shows you where your freedom actually is. Epictetus isn't telling us to feel nothing. It's about a certain kind of wanting. There's a distinction in Stoicism between what they called a healthy preference and a craving, a quiet wish and a shout. A preference is wanting a good meal. You move toward it. If you get it, fine. If you don't, you're still okay. Your peace isn't broken. The craving is needing that one specific dish from that one place right now. If it's not there, your night is ruined. That's the desire he argued against. It's not the thing itself. It's the attachment to it, the belief that you need it to be well. The Stoics called that a passion, a storm in the mind. Freedom grows when we turn those shouts into quiet wishes. Epictetus said we're disappointed not by events, but by the views we take. And our desires build those views. If your view is that you must have a certain outcome to be happy, then any other outcome is a defeat. You've built a trap. But if your view is that you prefer an outcome while your peace is separate, then no result can defeat you. Your preference can go unmet and your calm remains. Think of a picnic. You can prefer a sunny day. You hope for it. That's a natural leaning. But if it becomes a need for perfect weather, you've given the clouds power over you. When it rains, the person with a preference adapts. They move inside or they listen to the rain. Their day goes on. The person with the need is devastated. Their happiness was tied to something they couldn't control. In that moment, they're not free. They're a prisoner of the weather. So consider this. Can you find a desire in your life that has crossed from a preference into a need? Maybe for a relationship to act a certain way, for a project to get specific praise, for your body to look a particular fashion. Look for that feeling of tightness, of frustration, when things don't match the picture. That feeling is the signal. It means the desire has become the master and you've become the servant. The way forward isn't to give up what you prefer. It's to gently put it back in the category of preference, to loosen your grip, and in that loosening, feel the space for freedom come back. The Romans back then, they were chasing wealth and power. Just like we do now, and Epictetus saw that. He saw it as this huge collective delusion, a whole society running hard after things that can't, by their nature, deliver what they promise. The Stoics had a term for these pursuits. They called them indifference, not because they don't matter at all, but because they lack the power to make us good. Or to make us free, health, wealth, reputation, comfort, even life itself. In the Stoic view, these aren't good or bad in their essence, they're just materials. What matters is how we use them. A sharp knife in a surgeon's hand can save a life. The same knife in other hands causes harm. The knife itself is indifferent. It's the character of the person wielding it that decides the outcome. That's the radical core of the idea. We spend our lives believing the object is the source of our freedom. We think if I just had that promotion, that house, that level of respect, then I'd be secure, then I'd be happy, then I'd be free. Epictetus turns that completely around. He says by making your happiness depend on getting these indifference, you're giving them power over you. You're handing them the keys to your inner state. And since they're unstable, outside your full control, you've built your house on sand. True good and true freedom can only come from one place, virtue, which for the Stoics meant excellence of character, wisdom, courage, justice, self-discipline. These are the only things that are genuinely good because they're entirely up to you. No one can take your integrity from you. No market crash can destroy your courage. No change in social standing can remove your capacity for wisdom. That's the unshakable foundation. So limiting desire for externals is the act of breaking their hold. It's seeing the palace for what it is, just a very large, very fancy set of rooms. Epictetus loved to mock this. He'd picture a man boasting of his marble palace, his vast lands, his important friends, and then Epictetus would ask, but can you control your own anger? Are you a slave to your temper? That man owns a palace, but he does not own himself. His freedom is an illusion, because a single insult from a lesser man can throw him into a rage for days. So who is truly free? The person with modest means who is undisturbed by opinion, or the wealthy magnate tossed by every rumor and stock fluctuation? The answer shows the delusion. You can bring this to a modern shape. Think of social media validation. The likes, the shares, the follower count. These are classic indifference. They're external markers. Desiring them, needing them, feels like a game we choose to play. But does checking your phone constantly for notifications make you free? Or does it make you a servant to a tiny hit of dopamine, dictated by an algorithm and the scrolling habits of strangers? You've given a number on a screen power over your mood. That's the mechanism Epictetus warned about, now digitized. So here's a challenge. What's one external good you secretly believe would finally make you free, if only you had it? Be honest, is it a specific amount of money in the bank, a particular job title, the approval of a certain person or group? Sit with that for a moment. Now imagine, just as an experiment, that you will never get it, not as a tragedy but as a simple fact. If your freedom depends on that thing arriving, then you've already decided to remain unfree until it does. And perhaps long after. But if your freedom is built on something internal, on how you choose to meet each day regardless, then its arrival or absence changes nothing essential. That's the shift, the quiet, profound shift. Think of your mind as a fortress gate, and freedom is the guard at that gate. That's Epictetus. The guard has a name. The Discipline of Assent. Assent is that split second. You see something, and your mind whispers a judgment about it. You see a luxury car, an impression flashes. That's amazing. That's true happiness. That's success. Before you feel the desire, before you start calculating, there's this tiny space where you can agree with that impression. Or you can question it. That space is where your freedom is exercised or surrendered. Most of us, we just agree automatically. The impression comes in, vivid and loud, and we follow it. We're carried away by the initial feeling. That's how unchecked desires take root. They start as a story, an unchallenged story we tell ourselves about what's good, what's necessary. Epictetus warned about this. He said we're not disturbed by things, but by the views we take of them. And assent is the mechanism. It's the moment you sign the contract mentally. That says yes, this external thing is essential. To limit desire, then, isn't to fight the desire after it's a fire. It's to be the guard at the gate when the first spark tries to enter. It's to pause and examine the impression. Is this true? Is this necessary? Is this actually good, or does it just appear good? In his Discourses, Epictetus advises us, "Don't be carried away by the vividness. Say to it, wait, let me see what you are, let me test you. That testing is the practice, so take the luxury car." The unchecked impression says, "That is amazing, I need it." The practice of assent intervenes. It says, "This is a machine, a tool for transportation. My worth, my peace, my freedom don't depend on owning this machine. I can appreciate its design without needing to possess it." The impression is stripped of its promise. It's allowed to pass through as a simple observation. Not a command. This changes everything. Now the car is just a car. It has no power over you. Your mood isn't tied to its presence or its absence. You've guarded your inner citadel. You can apply this to any strong want, the craving for food, the urge to retaliate, the need for an apology. Each begins with an impression: this will satisfy me. He wronged me and I must correct it. I deserve that apology for my peace. The practice is to catch the impression, and in that pause, interrogate it. Is this truly good? Is acting on this necessary for my character? Will possessing this thing or this outcome actually bring freedom, or will it create a new chain? A new thing to protect and worry over. Today, try this. The next time a strong I want arises, for a purchase, a reaction, an outcome, create that pause. Even for 2 seconds, ask the guards questions. Is this impression telling me the whole truth? Is this desire something I am choosing, or is it choosing me? In that small space of questioning, you'll feel it, the shift from being pulled by the world to standing firm within yourself. That's the daily exercise of freedom. Desire is only half of it. We lose our freedom just as much by what we run from. Epictetus said our aversions, our strong dislikes, our fears, they chain us just as tightly as any craving. It's not just about wanting the good things. We lose liberty by desperately wanting to avoid the bad. If desire is a hook that pulls you toward something, then aversion is a tether. It pushes you away. Both are forms of attachment. Both mean your inner peace is tied to an outside condition. You are not free if the possibility of poverty, or criticism, or physical discomfort can send you into a spiral of anxiety. Because then, anyone who can threaten you with those things has power over you. They can make you act against your own character. They can coerce you. In the Enchiridion, Epictetus puts it plainly: happiness and freedom come not from fulfilling desires, but by suppressing desires, and then he adds the other half. By the elimination of aversion, we must become free from wanting and from fearing. That's the full picture of Stoic freedom. It's a state of inner invulnerability. Not because you're numb, but because you've redefined what is truly harmful. For the Stoic, the only real harm is to act without virtue, to lie, to be cowardly. To be unjust. Poverty isn't a harm, it's an external condition, an indifferent. Embarrassment isn't a harm, it's a feeling, often based on other people's opinions, which are also not up to us. So limiting aversion means taking these experiences off their pedestals of terror. It means seeing them for what they are: uncomfortable, perhaps, inconvenient, yes, but not catastrophic to your core self, not capable of destroying your freedom unless you let them. Take the common fear of public speaking. The aversion isn't to the act of speaking. It's to the potential outcome, the feeling of embarrassment, the judgment from the audience. That aversion controls people completely. It makes them avoid opportunities. It fills them with dread for weeks before an event. It can make their hands shake and their voice quiver in the moment. Why? Because they've assigned a massive value to avoiding that specific feeling. They've made their peace contingent on not feeling embarrassed, so the mere chance of embarrassment becomes a tyrant. Now apply the discipline, limit the aversion. Redefine the event. Public speaking is merely talking to a group. Embarrassment is a temporary feeling based on opinions you do not control. Doing your best with integrity is what is up to you. The result, the reaction, is not. When you downgrade the aversion from a terror to a mere preference, something shifts. You would prefer not to be embarrassed, of course. But your worth, your calm, is no longer staked on it. You can walk up to speak, and your freedom is intact regardless of the applause or the silence. Because you did not speak for the applause, you spoke because it was the right thing to do. That is how limiting aversion makes you invulnerable to coercion. A boss can't threaten you with a bad review if you are not averse to a bad review. A critic can't hurt you with harsh words if you are not averse to criticism. This doesn't mean you become reckless. It means your actions are chosen from principle, not from fear. So look at your own life. What is something you are actively avoiding right now because of a deep dislike or fear? Is it a difficult conversation, a financial risk, a social situation? How does that avoidance control your schedule, your mood, your choices? The energy spent running from something is still energy spent in bondage to it. The practice is to look at that thing and in the quiet of your mind say, "This thing I fear, it cannot truly harm me. Only my judgment about it can. I will meet it or I will not, but I will not be ruled by the fear of it." That's where you reclaim the ground, not by conquering the world, but by ceasing to be terrified by it. Epictetus talked about contentment. He called it autarkeia, self-sufficiency. It's this idea of carrying your own sense of enough, like an internal compass. It's not about being alone, it's an inner state, knowing your peace comes from your own character, from your own principles, not from things outside. When you need little from the world to feel okay, you become ungovernable by it. That's the freedom. Limit what you desire, focus your effort on what you control. And what comes out of that is this deep contentment. You're not a desperate seeker, you're a participant, a willing one. Marcus Aurelius reflected on this. The emperor, in his private writings, he'd remind himself to retreat into his own mind, to find a quiet citadel there. He wrote that you could live a tranquil life even in a crowded palace. If you held to your own principles, if you found sufficiency within, the palace, the crowd, the noise, they're just the setting. Your freedom is the condition of your mind. Think of two travelers on the same trip. The first one builds their happiness on a specific picture, the perfect hotel, the flawless weather, the seamless plan. Every little deviation, a delayed train, a room with a bad view, it feels like a defeat. Their enjoyment is conditional, fragile, constantly at the mercy of events. They're on vacation, but they're not free. The second traveler has a different mindset. Their contentment is based on the core experience, safe shelter. New sights, time away, the hotel is fine. The rain means a cozy cafe instead of a hike. Their enjoyment is adaptable, resilient. They're free to experience the trip as it unfolds. Not as they demanded it to be. Which person would you rather be? The one whose happiness is a checklist to be defended, or the one whose peace is a foundation to build upon? That's autarkeia in action. It's not settling for less. It's valuing your inner state more than the perfect alignment of external conditions. So here's a prompt. A simple one. Pick one area of your life, possessions, social commitments, professional achievements. Now define your enough for that area, not the number you dream of, but the line where more truly adds no more peace. For possessions, maybe it's enough clothes to be comfortable and presentable, not a closet overflowing. For social commitments, maybe it's enough connection to feel supported, not a calendar packed with obligations. Write that line down just for yourself. This isn't a rule to punish yourself with, it's a declaration of independence. It's saying, past this point, I am trading my freedom for clutter, for noise, for strain, and my freedom is worth more. That act of definition that's you building your internal compass. So when the world offers you more, you can check that compass and choose from a place of strength whether to say yes or to walk away, already complete. Epictetus had this image. Life is like a banquet, you're a guest there. Dishes come around, you take what comes to you, you enjoy it, but you don't grab the plate and say it's yours now. You don't get angry when the next course comes and they take the old one away. The point is the taste, not owning the dish. That's how you approach everything, your roles, your relationships, even your own body. It changes what desire is. Because so often we don't want the experience. We want to say it's ours. We want that label, my career, my reputation, my plan. When we say mine with that kind of grip, we build a prison. Then you're not just doing work, you're defending my work. You're not in a relationship, you're guarding my person. And that creates a deep vulnerability. Because everything is really on loan. Your health, your talents, the people you love, your job, they are all temporary. Epictetus said to remember that. He said, never say you lost something. Say you gave it back. Your child died, you gave him back. Your wife died, you gave her back. Your land was taken. That was given back too. It's not cold, it's just seeing clearly. It's seeing the banquet. Think of a library book. You enjoy it, you take care of it. You read it, but you know you don't own it, and when it's due, you return it. It doesn't feel like a violation. You enjoyed it completely because you weren't worried about keeping it forever. Now take something in your own life, a project at work. If you think this is my big chance, my success, the weight is huge. Every setback feels like an attack. Every critique threatens who you are. You're not free. You're a hostage to how it turns out, but see it differently. It's the work you're doing now, a task you've been given for a while. You do it fully, you use your skill, but the outcome, the credit, whether it continues, that's not yours to claim. It's part of how things go. That lets you work with focus, even passion, but without that anxious fear. Your sense of self isn't tied to it, so you can do your best. So consider one thing you really think of as yours, your job title, your social standing. A relationship, your physical health, and in your mind try the shift. See it not as a possession but as something in your care for now. How does that change things? Does the fear of losing it get smaller? Does the need to defend it ease up? You might feel a strange relief. The thing is still there, but the prison of mind starts to fade. And in that space you can engage in a lighter, truer way. Epictetus said human dignity and freedom come from one thing, our ability to choose our response. He called it Prohairesis, our reasoned will, the power to assent or not. Everything else is external. Your body can be locked up, your property taken, your reputation destroyed, but no one can ever force you to choose against your principles. They can't force your inner consent. That faculty is yours. It's the only thing that can't be taken. That's the seat of sovereignty, the ground of Stoic freedom. Limiting desire and aversion isn't passivity. It's clearing the clutter around that throne. Giving your faculty of choice space, clarity to operate with its full power. When you're not desperately wanting or fearing some external, your choice becomes pure. It answers to wisdom, to what's right. Epictetus put it starkly. He said, I must die, but must I die groaning? I must be imprisoned, but must I whine? I must suffer exile, but can anyone prevent me from going with a smile? The first part is the external event, the material. The second part is Prohairesis. The choice, the freedom is entirely in that second part. The event itself is neutral, wood and stone. Your faculty of choice is the carpenter. It decides what to build. From the same wood, one builds a shack, another builds a sturdy table. From the same circumstance, one builds resentment, another builds resilience. The material doesn't change. The craftsman does. Take a modern example. You're stuck in traffic. The external facts are fixed. Your car isn't moving. You will be late. That's the material. Now your Prohairesis goes to work. You have a choice. You can rage, pound the steering wheel, curse the other drivers, let stress flood your system, or you can accept the reality. This is the time I have now, and then you can use that material. You can listen to an audiobook, sit in silence and think. Simply observe your surroundings without judgment. The traffic hasn't changed, but in the second scenario, you've exercised your sovereignty. You've used the circumstance, not let it use you. That's freedom in action. It's small, but it's real. Every time you do this, you strengthen that inner faculty. You remind yourself where your power actually lies, so think of a recent frustration. A delayed flight, a critical comment, a plan that fell apart. In that moment, how did you use your prohairesis? Did you hand it over to the event? Let circumstance dictate your inner state. Or did you reclaim it? Choose your response from a place of calm principle. That question isn't about judging the past. It's about preparing for the next time. Because seeing you have a choice, that you always have this one inviolable possession, is the beginning of living as a free person. We have to act, life requires it. So the question becomes how to pursue things, how to build and strive without being chained by the results. Stoicism moves from reflection into action here with what's called the discipline of action. And it brings a tool, a mental tool, the reserved clause. It's a silent addition to any plan. You do everything you can to succeed while adding in your mind, fate permitting. If nothing prevents it, your full commitment goes into the action itself, the effort, the integrity of the process, the outcome, though you release. You hand that over to everything else you don't control. Your desire isn't for the trophy, it's for the virtuous effort. The trophy becomes something you'd prefer, but your peace doesn't depend on it. Seneca wrote about this. He used the image of setting sail. You make your preparations carefully. You choose a skilled crew. You wait for good weather. You commit to the journey, but once you're at sea, a storm may arise. That's not in your power. Your goal wasn't to command the waves, but to sail well. Your virtue was in the preparation, in the skillful navigation, not in guaranteeing you'd reach the port. Epictetus said this too, constantly. Focus on your intention. Your choices within your agency. Think of an athlete training for the Olympics. If their desire is fixed only on the gold medal, the whole 4-year journey becomes a tense gamble. Every session is haunted by the fear of falling short. An injury is a catastrophe. A rival's better performance feels like a theft. Their happiness is postponed, fragile, entirely outside their grasp. Now shift the desire. Let the athlete's true goal be to train with absolute excellence, to cultivate discipline, to compete with honor and full effort. The medal is still there, a shining preference, but it's not the source of their worth or their peace. That athlete is free. They can push their limits without the crushing weight of a single demanded outcome. They can lose with grace because their core achievement, the virtuous effort, remains untouched. That mindset doesn't weaken performance. It often sharpens it by removing the paralyzing fear of failure. This applies directly off the field. You're working on a major project. The discipline of action means you pour your skill, creativity, and diligence into the work. You desire to do it well, to be collaborative, to solve problems with integrity. The outcome, whether it gets praise, a promotion, or gets cancelled, is part of a larger process you don't direct. Your manager's mood, a shift in company strategy, a competitor's move, those are the storms at sea. You sailed well. That's where your freedom is, your satisfaction. So here's a challenge. Pick one current goal, large or small, a fitness target, a creative project, a difficult conversation. Perform this mental separation. Define clearly what part is the virtuous effort fully within your control, your consistent practice, your honest draft, your compassionate and clear words. Then look at the desired outcome, the weight on the scale, the publication deal, the other person's agreement. See that second part as a preference, while anchoring your sense of accomplishment firmly in the first. Try holding both ideas. I will act with all my ability, and I am mentally prepared for any result. Feel the space that opens up. The goal is no longer a chain. It's a direction for your best energy. Desire has everything to do with it. That's what Epictetus would say. Unchecked desire in our relationships is a form of bondage. We go in with these hidden lists. We want people to think well of us, to agree with what we think, to act the way we expect, to validate the choices we've made. Each one of these wants is like a little hook, and we're handing the line to the other person. so our own emotional state ends up depending on them, on their moods, their whims, the parts of their inner life we can't see. That's not freedom, it's servitude really, but it wears the clothes of connection. The Stoic answer is a paradox. To find freedom with people, you have to limit your desires about what they should do. And you put your energy into the one role you can actually play well, being a good friend yourself, a good partner, a good family member. Your character, your actions, your integrity, that's your material. Their reactions, their approval, whether they change, that's not yours. Epictetus had an image for this, how to behave socially. He said, act at a dinner party the way you'd want a companion to act. Don't grab for the best food, pass things politely, take a moderate share, and it's not about the food, it's about interaction. In any social situation, your job is to show up with courtesy, fairness, goodwill. You don't control who sits next to you. You don't control what they say or what they take. You control your own plate, your own manners. You take that to a hard conversation and it changes everything. Say a family gathering and a relative has views opposite to yours. The unchecked desire is to change their mind, to win, to make them see the light. And that desire creates tension immediately. Every word they say feels like a provocation. Your peace is held hostage by their agreement, which probably won't come. But you apply the limit, your desire shifts. Your goal isn't to change them anymore. It's to state your own view calmly, with respect, to listen without being taken over by anger. You let go of the need for their agreement. You've done your part. You were honest. You were civil. Their response is their material to work with. The freedom there is immense. You can walk away from that talk without the simmering resentment, because you didn't stake your well-being on an outcome you could never guarantee. You engaged with integrity. And that was the whole point. So consider this. Is there a relationship where you feel unfree because you want the other person to change in a specific way? A partner to be more attentive, a friend to be more reliable, a parent to finally understand you. Feel the weight of that desire. It feels like concern, like care. But notice how it also feels like a burden, a constant background score of disappointment when the world doesn't bend to your wish. What if you released that desire? Not the hope, not the quiet preference, but the demanding need for them to be different in order for you to be okay. Your energy would flow back to the only thing you can ever truly offer. Your own presence, your own kindness, your own boundaries set with love. That shift doesn't mean you accept poor treatment. It means you stop waiting for someone else's change to grant you peace. You build your peace first, and from that solid ground you relate. That's the social dimension of freedom. It turns connection from a negotiation of needs into a gift you are free to give. Epictetus saw it, a mind that's racing ahead, wanting something in the future, or stuck looking back at something that's already gone. That mind is in exile. It's left the one place where freedom is actually possible. Your power of choice, your prohairesis, it doesn't work in yesterday. It doesn't work in tomorrow. It works here, in this breath, in this moment. So when desire pulls you forward, craving some outcome, or backward, into regret, you've left your post. You've abandoned the one place where you have any sovereignty, and you've handed that over to a memory or a fantasy, things you can't touch, things you can't change. That's the time paradox of freedom. We think we're planning for the future. We think we're learning from the past, and sometimes we are, but so often we're not. We're just worrying, we're just wishing. The Stoics saw this. The past is fixed. It's just a set of facts. The future is uncertain. It's shaped by so many things outside our control. The only time that's fully ours is this thin slice, now, and it's in this slice that we can actually do something. Exercise virtue, make a choice, take an action. Everything else is a story, and when desire writes that story, it usually writes a story of lack, of what should have been, or what must be. Marcus Aurelius, in his private writings, came back to this. Again and again, he'd remind himself how fleeting life is. not to create fear but to create focus. He wrote that we lose nothing by dying except the present moment, because that's all we ever truly have. And so, he said, we have to confine our attention to the task right in front of us, to do that thing with dignity, with intelligence, with goodwill. That confinement of attention, it's an act of liberation. It frees you from the phantom burdens of time. Take a common anxiety, a future presentation. For days or weeks, the desire for it to go perfectly, for applause, for approval, it creates a present suffering. Your mind lives in that future room. Rehearsing disasters, craving a specific reaction, you become a prisoner of a day that hasn't even arrived. Now apply the limit, redirect the desire. Your desire isn't for a flawless future event. Your desire is to prepare thoroughly, right now, to understand your material, to craft a clear message. That is within your control. The actual moment of the presentation, when it comes, will just be another now, another moment to handle with the same principle. Do your best with what's in front of you. The craving for a specific outcome, it vanishes, and with it, the days of anticipatory dread. You reclaim all those present moments as your own. The same mechanism works with the past. Regret is often just a stubborn desire, a desire for a different yesterday. You wish you'd said something else, made a different choice. That desire chains you to a ghost. It pollutes your present with a sadness over something you can't change. Epictetus would ask, can you change it? If the answer is no, then your only free move is to accept the fact and decide what you can do with the facts you have now. The past becomes material, not a master. So here's a simple practice. For 5 minutes today, just notice. Notice when your mind drifts into desire for a future outcome or a different past. Don't judge it, just see it. See the mental pull away from your current reality, and then gently bring your attention back to what you can perceive and what you can do right now. The feel of the chair, the task on your desk, the next single action you can take. This isn't about achieving perfect mindfulness. It's about exercising your freedom to inhabit the only time zone where you are actually the governor. Each time you do this, you're pulling your sovereignty back from the exile of time and planting it firmly in the ground of the present, where it belongs. Epictetus was a slave. He lived that reality. He had a permanent injury to his leg, and the story is that his master twisted it. Epictetus warned him, you'll break it, and the bones snapped, and Epictetus said, I told you so. That's not about defiance, it's about the teaching. His master had power over his body, could inflict pain, cause harm, but he couldn't control the inner response, couldn't force him to feel rage or humiliation or despair. That faculty, the Prohairesis, stayed sovereign. Epictetus desired only what was in his power, his own judgment, his choice to meet the event without surrendering. The chains were on his ankles, not on his mind. His philosophy carries that weight because it was forged there, in that extreme laboratory. He knew the difference between physical constraint and spiritual freedom because he lived it. Every day, later when he was free, he chose a life of teaching, not wealth, not status. His freedom, once secured inside, needed no external validation. The only battle that mattered was already won. Now a modern parallel. Someone feels enslaved by a job they hate, long hours, a demanding boss. This sense their life isn't their own. The circumstances feel like chains. The paycheck feels like the key that locks the door. That's a psychological bondage, and the Epictetus response isn't necessarily to quit, though that could be valid. The first move is internal. It's to examine the desires and aversions making it feel like slavery. Is it the craving for a lifestyle that needs this income? The aversion to the risk of leaving, the desperate desire for the boss's approval or a specific promotion. Each one is a hook, a point where the external circumstance controls the internal state. Limiting those desires changes the experience. You start to see the job as a set of tasks, not the definition of your worth. You perform your duties with integrity, because that's within your power, while mentally releasing the need for a specific outcome. You stop waiting for the job to set you free. You start exercising your freedom within the job. The circumstances may not change, but your experience of them transforms. You move from feeling like a slave to your situation to being a free person temporarily in a difficult role. So here's a tough question. What in your life feels like a form of slavery right now? A relationship dynamic, a financial pressure, a social obligation. Identify that sensation of being trapped, then look closely at the desires intertwined with it. What are you craving from this situation that it can't reliably provide? What are you so averse to that it holds you in place? How might applying Epictetus's principle, limiting those specific desires, redirecting your effort solely to what you can control, change the very feeling of that chain? The goal isn't to endure misery with a stoic face. It's to discover that the first and most important key was always in your own hand. Freedom is something you build. Epictetus talked about mental weightlifting, choosing small hardships on purpose. The Stoics called this voluntary discomfort, ascesis. It's not punishment. It's a training ground, a gym for your will. You prove to yourself in a real way that you aren't ruled by the need for comfort, for ease, for constant gratification. You step into a little cold, a little hunger, some small inconvenience by choice, and in that choice you feel your own strength. You show that your peace doesn't depend on everything being perfectly soft. Perfectly warm, the logic is direct. If you're a slave to wanting warmth, then winter becomes your jailer. If you're ruled by craving rich food, your mood is hostage to the menu. Voluntary discomfort breaks that chain. You take the thing you'd normally avoid and you invite it in, on your own terms for a short time, a cold shower instead of hot. A simple meal of plain food, walking instead of driving, sleeping on a firmer surface for one night. You aren't suffering, you're experimenting, testing the boundary between want and need. And you discover you can be perfectly fine, even content, without the thing you thought was essential. You're strengthening your choice muscle, the one that says, I prefer warmth, but I don't require it to be okay. The Stoics took this further. Seneca wrote about practicing poverty. He'd set aside a few days to live on the simplest food, wear his oldest clothes. He wasn't doing it because he had to. He was doing it to remind himself, to prove to his own fears that losing wealth wouldn't be a catastrophe. He called it a test drive of fortune's harshness. By encountering it voluntarily, he stripped it of its terror. He learned his well-being was rooted in something deeper than cushions, deeper than fine wine. Epictetus said the same. He told his students to sometimes use an earthenware cup instead of silver, to sleep on a hard bed. The point was to look at your fine things afterward and say, you see, I can live without you. I enjoy you, but I am not owned by you. Think of it like a fire drill. You don't wait for a real fire to see if the exits work. You practice the procedure in calm conditions. Voluntary discomfort is a freedom drill. You create a small, controlled scenario where an external condition is less than ideal, and you practice responding not with panic, but with calm acceptance. You prove your independence in a safe, manageable way. So when life brings its uncontrollable hardships, a financial setback, a loss, real difficulty, you aren't encountering that territory for the first time. You've been there on your own terms. You know your inner citadel can withstand the weather. A modern version might be a digital fast, choosing to forego social media for a full day. Or a weekend, not because it's evil, but to prove to yourself that your sense of connection, your entertainment, your worth, isn't held captive by that stream of updates. It's reclaiming your attention voluntarily, or wearing an outfit that's simple, functional, not chosen for anyone's approval, just to feel the freedom of not performing. The goal is never masochism, it's always sovereignty, the quiet, personal victory of choosing your response over your reflex. So here's a challenge for this week. choose one small comfort to voluntarily forego. Just one. It could be that second cup of coffee in the afternoon, the automatic scroll through your phone first thing in the morning, the most comfortable chair in the house. Pick something minor but noticeable. Do it not as a deprivation but as an experiment in agency. For that brief period, observe what happens inside. Do you feel a pinch of lack or a subtle surge of inner strength? That feeling that you are okay without the thing is the sensation of your freedom growing. It's the proof, built not in theory but in the lived experience of your own resilience. Epictetus would disagree with that idea of freedom. That's not freedom. That's being pulled by every impulse. There's a difference between license and freedom. License is doing whatever you feel like right now, following every craving. It feels powerful, but who's really in charge? The person is just reacting. A craving comes, they obey. An irritation flares, they lash out. They aren't governing their actions. Their impulses are. That's not sovereignty, that's servitude. The Stoics called it being a slave to the passions. The person feels free when they indulge, but it's an illusion. Their appetites hold the leash. True Stoic freedom is the opposite. It's rational self-governance, living in harmony with your nature and with virtue. It's the power to pause between the impulse and the action, to consult your reason, to choose the response that aligns with your long-term well-being and your principles. It's the freedom to say no. Seneca said it plainly. No man is free who is a slave to his body or his passions. Your body might crave sugar, but your reason knows health. Your anger might demand a sharp retort, but your wisdom values peace. Freedom is when reason commands, not when it's held hostage by feeling. Take overeating. The license is to eat the whole cake because it tastes good. It feels liberating, no rules, but afterwards you feel uncomfortable, sluggish, maybe guilty. That momentary license led to a loss of well-being. You feel less in control. Now the Stoic freedom. You see the cake, you appreciate it, you might want a slice. But your reason, aligned with health and moderation, guides you. You have one slice, you savor it, and then you stop, not because you have to, but because you choose to. You're governed by your own rational choice, not by the sugar on the plate. That's sovereignty. You said no to the second slice, and in that no, you affirmed your command. One path gives a fleeting sensation of liberty, then a hangover of regret. The other gives the sustained dignity of self-possession. So think of a time when doing what you wanted in the moment made you feel less free afterwards. Staying up too late scrolling, sacrificing tomorrow's clarity for tonight's distraction, or buying something on a whim that later felt like clutter, a financial weight. Or speaking in anger and feeling the strain left in a relationship. In each case, the initial feeling of license gave way to a sense of being diminished, of having lost ground. That feeling is the signal. It shows the difference between the puppet of impulse and the author of your own life. Stoic freedom isn't about building a wall of restrictions. It's about clearing internal space so your truest, most rational self can take the helm. And that requires knowing the difference between a command from your core and a shout from a passing storm. Your mind is a room, and every desire you don't put a limit on. It's like a piece of furniture. You have to maintain it, you worry about it, you have to defend it. So limiting desire, it's a kind of thoughtful minimalism. It's not about having an empty room. It's about curating what's in it, doing it with intention. So you can move in that room, you can breathe in it. That's the freedom of simplicity. When your desires are few and they're focused on what actually matters, your life stops feeling like a cluttered storage unit. Your material life, your mental life, it becomes a space you can inhabit with ease, complexity. It creates this hidden burden, endless wants, possessions. Social commitments, they demand your attention, they take your time, your emotional bandwidth. You end up becoming the manager. You're just managing your own clutter. Epictetus saw this. He said it's a profound distraction. By constantly adding to our pile of wants, we lose the energy, we lose the clarity we need for the one thing that makes a good life. Living with virtue, Marcus Aurelius, he wrote about this in his private writings. He'd remind himself how little you actually need for a happy life. A handful of plain food, simple shelter, basic clothing. He wrote that chasing more and more things, it's like running away from yourself. It distracts you from the divine spark inside you, from the work on your own character. He saw simplicity as a direct path, a path to focus. When you're not managing 100 different cravings, your mind is free. It's free to engage deeply with the present moment, with your principles, with work that means something. This is the Stoic foundation for what we now call minimalism. The modern trend of owning less, it isn't just an aesthetic. It's not just a financial strategy. At its best, it's a practical offshoot of this ancient wisdom. It's the external part, the manifestation of limiting desire. Decluttering a closet, that's a physical act. It mirrors the internal act, the act of decluttering your wants. You look at an object, you ask, does this serve a purpose aligned with my values, or is it here because of a past desire, a desire for status? Or a future fear, a fear of lack? Letting it go, that's a small exercise, an exercise in freedom, but simplicity, it goes further, beyond possessions. It applies to your schedule, your digital life, your social obligations. Every time you say yes to something non-essential, there's often a hidden desire behind it. A desire for approval, a fear of missing out, a need to feel important, and that commitment, it becomes another piece of furniture in the mental room. It requires upkeep, it takes up space, so saying no, that becomes an act of curation. You're curating your time, you're defending your inner clarity. It's choosing autonomy over administration. Think about your email inbox, your phone's notifications, every subscription, every app, each stream of content. They represent a potential desire for information, for connection, for entertainment. Unchecked, they create a noise, a deafening noise, but a simple digital space, an intentional one. It's quiet. It allows you to choose when to engage, instead of being perpetually on call to the demands of other things. Your attention, it becomes your own again. So here's a prompt for reflection. What's one area of your life that feels overly complex right now, cluttered? Is it a physical space, a garage, a closet? Is it your list of digital subscriptions, your weekly calendar packed with tasks that just feel obligatory? Look closely at that complexity and ask what desire is driving it. Is it a desire for security, hoarding things just in case? Is it a desire for social acceptance, saying yes to every invitation? Is it a desire for novelty, accumulating apps and services you almost never use? Identifying the desire behind the clutter, that's the first step toward the freedom of simplicity. It lets you make a different choice to keep only what serves a purpose aligned with your peace, to clear the space around you, and the space within you for what truly matters. The fear of death is the main one. All other fears are just shadows of that. Epictetus said to be free, you have to limit even that desire. It's not about being obsessed with the end. It's about the freedom that comes when you stop trying to avoid what you can't avoid. That terror makes you cling to life in strange ways. You might avoid risks that give life meaning. You might hoard your time, your energy, like you could keep it. You can get so focused on not dying that you forget to live. But accepting mortality as a natural return changes everything. Life stops being a possession you're scared to lose. It becomes a gift you can use, a temporary assignment to be done with purpose. Epictetus put it clearly. He said, death is necessary. Where would I go to escape it? That question is a tool. It frames death not as a monster, but as a fact of geography. A boundary. You can't go anywhere to avoid it, so your energy is better spent on how you walk the path. That matter-of-factness is the source of freedom. When you stop arguing with a fact, you release mental energy. Energy you were using to fight a battle you couldn't win. That energy can now go into living. Think about two people facing a serious health challenge. The first is gripped by the desire to avoid the inevitable at all costs. They frantically seek any cure, any hope, no matter how unlikely. Their remaining time becomes a desperate scramble against a closing door. Every moment is colored by fear. Their life at the end feels like a prison of anxiety. The second person has made some peace with mortality. They accept the diagnosis as a fact. Their desire shifts. It's no longer just about avoiding the end. It's about using the time they have to mend a relationship, to say important things, to experience simple joys. Their time, however limited, feels expansive because it's filled with intention, not avoidance. Which person is more free, the one fighting the natural order, or the one living in harmony with it, even in difficulty? This applies long before any diagnosis. It's a daily practice. The Stoics called it memento mori, remember you will die. It sounds dark, but its purpose is the opposite. It's a tool for clarity, for cutting through the noise of trivial desires. When you remember your time is limited, it asks a question. Does this desire, this worry, this conflict really matter? Remembering you will die, does the craving for a newer car, or the sting of a slight, or the anxiety over an imperfection seem to shrink? It burns away the petty and illuminates the essential. It clarifies what you truly want to do with your time, not with forever, but with today. So here's that prompt, not as a dark thought, but as a lens. Remembering your time is finite, does it make some of your current desires seem trivial? Does it bring into focus what you actually want to build or experience? That clarity from accepting the boundary is where freedom takes root. You stop living as if you have infinite tomorrows and start choosing how to spend today. Limiting desire has this side effect. The world you already have starts to shine. That's where Epictetus leads you, to gratitude. When you stop straining for what you don't have, your attention relaxes. It settles on what's already here. That constant mental comparison, that background noise of lack, it fades. And in the quiet, ordinary things look extraordinary. The warmth of your bed, the sound of a friend's voice, the taste of water. This isn't resignation, it's active noticing. Gratitude comes up not as an exercise, but as the natural state of a mind that isn't preoccupied with the next thing. That grateful mindset is freedom. Freedom from the nagging sense you're missing something essential, that your life is incomplete. Epictetus had a daily practice for this. He said to begin each day by reminding yourself of the people you'll see, the comforts you have, the tasks ahead, but with a specific lens. See them not as entitlements but as gifts. Temporary gifts, he said to tell yourself, today I will meet the busybody, the ungrateful person, the arrogant man, but I will also have the gift of my own reason. The gift of food and shelter, the gift of community. Framing your day this way, you're not just listing positives, you're performing a mental shift, moving from a stance of demand to a stance of reception. And in that shift, even challenges can be met with a kind of grateful curiosity. As material for your character, take a simple meal. Two people sit down to a home-cooked dinner. The first person's mind is elsewhere. They're thinking about a fancier restaurant or scrolling through pictures of more elaborate dishes. The food before them is just fuel. It's inadequate because it's being compared to an imaginary ideal. They are there, but they're not present. Their desire for something else robs them of the experience they're actually having. The second person has practiced limiting that desire. They're not wishing the meal was different. Their attention is on the plate. They notice the colors, the textures, the aroma. They taste each bite. They feel the nourishment. That meal in that moment is enough, more than enough. It's a source of genuine pleasure. This person is free to enjoy their life as it is. The first person is a prisoner to a life they imagine they should be having. The difference is gratitude, and gratitude is the emotional signature of a mind not in a state of want. This applies to everything. Your job becomes a gift of purpose and provision, not just a stepping stone. Your home becomes a place of sanctuary, not just a comparison to a larger house. The people in your life become companions on the journey, not actors failing to meet a script you wrote. Gratitude turns what you have into enough, and when you have enough, you are free from the tyranny of scarcity. So a small practice for tonight. Before you sleep, list 3 ordinary things you had or experienced today that you would genuinely miss if they were gone. The feeling of sunlight on your skin during a walk, the functioning of your body that let you move through the day, a quiet moment of safety in your own space. Don't just name them, sit with the feeling of that thought that these things are temporary gifts. That feeling, that soft pang of appreciation mixed with the awareness of impermanence, it's not sadness. It's the deepest kind of wealth. It's the quiet, expansive freedom of knowing you already have what matters. Epictetus never saw an Instagram ad, but he described the engine of our economy exactly. The cultivation of endless artificial desire. Our whole modern world is built to do the opposite of what he said. It's a machine designed to generate infinite want. And to exploit it, to make you feel your current state is incomplete, your current possessions, your current self, perpetually incomplete, and then it sells you the next piece as the solution. This isn't just commerce, it's an attack on your inner freedom, a sophisticated attack. Every billboard, every targeted ad, every influencer's curated life. They're selling you more than a product. They're selling an identity, a promise that this purchase will close the gap between who you are and who you should be. It manufactures an anxiety, and then it conveniently offers the cure for a price. Your freedom in this system, it's measured by your ability to see this mechanism. To see it and consciously step out of its grip, revisit that core idea. Freedom is secured not by fulfilling desires but by removing them. Now look at consumer culture. Its entire purpose is to implant desires, to make removal feel like deprivation. It tells you freedom is in the next purchase, the next upgrade, the next trend. Epictetus would call this the grand delusion. You're handing over your prohairesis, your faculty of choice, to marketers and algorithms. They decide what you should want. And you spend your life energy chasing it, believing you're moving toward liberty, when you're actually forging new chains. The Stoic act of limiting desire, it becomes a radical form of resistance. Choosing to want only what is rational, what is sufficient, what serves your life rather than defines it. Consider the upgrade cycle for technology, a phone that works perfectly well. It calls, it texts, it accesses information, it takes good photos, yet a new model arrives. Marketing doesn't just list new features, it sells a story. That your current device is outdated, that you are falling behind, that your social currency is depreciating. The desire for the next model, it's often driven by this manufactured narrative. Not by a genuine functional need. Choosing to use your device until it no longer serves its core purpose, that is a modern, quiet act of Stoic freedom. It's saying, my worth is not housed in this object's model number. My connection to the world is not housed in it. I break the cycle of wanting, the cycle that was assigned to me. In that refusal, you reclaim a piece of your attention, your finances, your peace. You reclaim it from a system that needs you to be restless. So here's a reflective prompt. Think back over the last day or two. What's one advertisement you saw that tried to create a desire in you? A video ad, a social media post, an email. Now dissect the impression it was selling. Was it selling ease or status? Was it offering to solve a loneliness you didn't feel until you saw the ad? Was it implying your life would be more authentic, more exciting, more accepted if you owned this thing? Just the act of pulling that thread, of seeing the machinery behind the want, it begins to disarm it. You're no longer a passive recipient of a desire, you're an observer of a strategy, and in that space of observation, your freedom to choose to want or not want, it clicks firmly back into your own hands. The most common jailer isn't a person, it isn't a law, it's the phantom of other people's opinions, and Epictetus, he offers the key, the desire for a good reputation, for approval, for being seen in a certain light. That's a cage. We build it ourselves piece by piece, every time we adjust our words, every time we silence an idea to fit what we think others want. And in Stoic logic, this is one of the most profound surrenders of freedom we can make. Because your reputation, what others think of you, that's firmly in the category of things not up to us. You cannot control another person's mind. You cannot dictate their judgment. To desire something you categorically cannot control is to hand over your inner peace to every critic, to every flatterer, to every stranger whose opinion flits through the social world. You become a marionette and the audience holds all the strings. Epictetus saw this with piercing clarity. In the Enchiridion, he gives a piece of advice. It cuts to the heart of creative life, professional life. He says, if you wish to be a writer, write well, but do not crave to be known as a writer. The first part is your work. Your craft, your integrity, that's fully within your power. The second part is the reputation, the title, the applause, that's entirely outside it. The moment you start craving the label more than the labor, you've lost your way. Your happiness becomes contingent on a reception you cannot command. Your freedom vanishes into the need for validation. Think about posting a piece of creative work online. A poem, a short video, an article you poured yourself into. The person still chained to the desire for approval will post it and then refresh the page. Compulsively, their heart sinks with every passing minute that no likes appear. A single critical comment can unravel their entire day. They didn't just share a creation. They offered up their self-worth for public referendum. Their emotional state is now a live stock ticker, fluctuating with the unpredictable market of public opinion. Now consider the person who has limited this desire. They created something that felt true, something that expressed their skill and their perspective to the best of their ability. That was the goal, the act of faithful creation. They post it and then close the laptop. They feel a quiet satisfaction that is complete in itself. The likes, the shares, the comments, they are external phenomena. Like weather passing by the window, interesting to note perhaps, but incapable of changing the temperature inside the room. This person is free. They've reclaimed their energy from the exhausting work of managing perceptions. And they've reinvested it entirely in the work that matters, doing things well for their own sake. This tyranny of what will they think governs so many small choices. The outfit you pick because it's acceptable rather than what you love. The opinion you withhold in a meeting to avoid rocking the boat. The hobby you never start because you're afraid you'll look foolish as a beginner. Each of these is a trade, a little piece of your authentic expression in exchange for the hope of social safety. But the safety is an illusion. You can never please everyone. So you end up living a curated performance, anxious that the mask might slip, and all the while feeling less and less like yourself. So here's a direct challenge. A practical application. What is one thing you would do differently this week if you were completely, genuinely indifferent to whether people praised or criticized you for it? Would you finally voice that unconventional idea at work? Wear that item of clothing that feels uniquely you. Share that personal project you've been keeping secret. The action itself doesn't have to be grand. It's the internal shift that is revolutionary. In that small act, chosen for its alignment with your own integrity and not for its social reward, you will feel the bars of that particular cage begin to bend. You will taste the air of a freedom that comes from answering to your own conscience first and letting the opinions of the world become what they always were, background noise. Not a command. A no can feel like a door closing, but for the Stoic, it's the thing that keeps your own door shut. It's not about rejecting the world. It's about affirming what's yours. Every time you say yes to something out there, you're saying no to something in here, your time, your energy, your focus, your peace. So choosing your no's deliberately, based on reason, on your own principles, that's how you shape a free life. It's the tool that carves your time into the form you want. Epictetus built his teaching on this. He told his students, we are not our bodies, we are not our possessions, we are our faculty of choice, our prohairesis. And that faculty holds a core power, the right to refuse, to withhold assent, to say this doesn't align with my nature, my duties, my peace. A yes given from fear or from wanting approval or just from habit, that's not a free act. It's a surrender, but a no chosen from clarity, from virtue. That's a declaration of independence. Take a practical case. A colleague asks for major help over the weekend. The automatic response might be yes. The desire to be seen as helpful, the fear of conflict, the craving to belong. You say yes, but that yes has a cost. It says no to your rest, to family time, to your own recovery. The result is often a quiet resentment, a feeling of being used. Your own priorities get diluted. You've traded your autonomy for a social reward. Now apply the Stoic no. You pause, you consult your own inner space. What are my commitments? What do I need for my well-being? Is this request aligned with my core duties, or is it someone else's poor planning? From that reflection, you might choose differently. A polite no, I have prior commitments that need my attention. Or a counter-offer, I can't help this weekend, but I can review the draft Monday morning. That response isn't selfish, it's setting a boundary from self-respect. It preserves your time, your autonomy. It communicates that your energy isn't a public resource. It's a sovereign asset you choose to deploy. That colleague might be disappointed, but you've kept the integrity of your own life. You've exercised your faculty of choice. You've said no to an external demand to say yes to your own principles. This goes far beyond work. It's social invitations you feel obligated to accept. It's consumer temptations. It's the endless stream of digital content. Every time you reflexively say yes, you're conceding a piece of your attention, your most finite resource. Every considered no is a reclamation. It's you deciding what gets to occupy the space of your life. So here's a question. Is there a yes you regularly say that feels more like an obligation? A commitment that drains you, a habit that subtracts from your peace. Identify that pattern, then envision what a virtuous no might look like there, not a harsh rejection. A clear, calm statement of your limits and priorities. What would you be protecting? What space would you create? Just holding that possibility begins to reshape the relationship. It reminds you the power to refuse isn't a loss. It's the foundation of a life you can call your own. A cluttered attic feels cramped, it feels useless. But the space itself hasn't actually shrunk, it's just filled. If you clear out the old furniture, the broken things, the boxes you forgot about, you aren't making the attic smaller. You're revealing its actual size, the floor you can use, the height of the ceiling, the potential that was always there, and that's exactly what limiting desire does to your inner world. It isn't a contraction, it's an expansion. It expands the only territory you really govern, your own mind. Constant wanting is the clutter, it's mental noise. 100 different impulses. I want that recognition. I need to avoid that discomfort. I crave that experience. Each one is like a piece of furniture in your mind. It demands attention, it gathers dust, it blocks the light. That agitation leaves no room for stillness, no room for the deep, clear reflection that a free mind has. Seneca wrote a lot about leisure, about otium, but he wasn't talking about idle time filled with entertainment. He meant a cultivated quiet, a mind at peace with itself. A mind that can retreat into its own company. That kind of leisure, that inner spaciousness, is impossible when your mental attic is packed with the junk of irrational cravings. You can't hear your own thoughts over the noise of wanting. You can see this if you try to meditate. You sit down, you intend quiet, and almost immediately the wants come in. The desire for the session to be productive, the urge to check the time, replaying a plan for later. The mind feels crowded, it feels frantic and small. It's bouncing off the walls of its own clutter. Now contrast that with the feeling after practicing release, letting go of the need for the meditation to be a certain way. Observing the wants as they arise, but not furnishing the attic with them. A space opens, the mental noise recedes, it becomes a background hum, and in that new quiet you can breathe. You can see that spaciousness isn't emptiness, it's capacity. It's the room where calm judgment forms, where creativity sparks, where you can finally meet your own experience without a filter of lack. That's the feeling of expanded inner freedom. So here's a small experiment for clearing a corner of that attic. Sit quietly, just for 2 minutes. Set a timer if you want. Your only task is to observe. Watch the wants as they pop into your awareness. The desire for a snack, for distraction, for this to be over. Don't engage them. Don't follow them, don't judge them, just notice them. And then notice the space that appears in the pause before the next one arises. In that tiny gap, you are not a seeker. You are the spacious awareness that contains the seeking. And in that recognition, even for a second, you touch the vast freedom that limiting desire is meant to reveal. Some people just seem steady in a crisis. Epictetus would say it's because they've disciplined their desires. They have fewer hooks for fortune to grab onto. That steadiness has a name in Stoicism, autarkeia. It's not apathy, it's not a lack of feeling, it's freedom from overwhelming passions, it's emotional resilience. And you build it directly, brick, by limiting what you crave and what you fear. Think of your emotions like a pond. Every unchecked desire is like throwing a stone in. It makes ripples, disturbances. The more stones you throw, the more things you want or fear, the more turbulent the water gets. It never settles. Limiting desire is choosing to stop throwing stones. To let the water grow still, so when the wind of circumstance blows, it only makes surface waves, not a storm from within. Your calm is deeper then. Most emotional turmoil comes from a desire that was frustrated. Or a fear that came true. You wanted a specific outcome and it didn't happen. You feared an experience and it arrived. How upset you are, that's a direct measure of how tightly you are clinging to that want or that fear. Epictetus saw this clearly. He said we're disturbed not by events, but by the judgments we hold about them, and our desires form those judgments. If you judge that you must have a quiet day to be happy, then a noisy neighbor makes you rage. If you judge that you must avoid criticism, then a single piece of feedback feels like annihilation. Your stability gets outsourced to the world's behavior. And the world is unreliable. He used a metaphor. A philosopher is like a rock in the surf. Waves crash against it. They roar and foam, but the rock stands unmoved. The waves are external events, losses, insults, sudden changes. The rock is the mind trained in Stoic principles. That immobility isn't rigidity, it's resilience. You feel the impact, but you aren't shattered. You feel the wave, but you aren't washed away. That steadfastness comes from having no deep cracks of craving or dread for the water to exploit. Your desires are rational and few, so the emotional surge has nothing to grab. Take getting critical feedback at work. For someone whose desire is tightly wound around praise, this is a crisis. Their worth is tied to external approval, so the criticism doesn't feel like information. It feels like an attack on their identity. They get defensive, angry, despondent. Their day is ruined. Their ability to actually hear the feedback is crippled by the storm inside. Now picture someone who's limited that desire. Their primary desire isn't for praise. It's for growth. Their judgment is, my worth is in my effort to learn, not in someone's momentary opinion. When the same feedback arrives, they can receive it calmly. Maybe even with gratitude, here's a map showing where I can get better. Their emotional pond stays clear. They can assess the feedback logically, take what's useful, discard what's not. They're resilient. The event was the same. The emotional outcome was worlds apart. The difference was in the architecture of their wants. This scales to everything. The cancelled plan you were desperate for, the financial surprise you deeply feared, the harsh word from a loved one. In each case, the initial sting is natural. But the duration and depth of the suffering that follows, that's determined by the desire attached to it. Was your happiness contingent on that plan going exactly right? Was your security dependent on that financial picture staying static? Was your sense of being loved tied to that person always speaking kindly? So here's a tool. Recall a recent emotional upset, a frustration, a sadness, some anxiety. Look behind the emotion. Ask, what specific desire of mine was thwarted here? Or what specific fear of mine was realized? Be honest. Was it the desire for control, for comfort, for recognition, for certainty? Just naming the desire that got hooked begins to loosen its grip. It turns the experience from a vague, bad thing happened to a precise, my desire for X was unmet. And in that precise space, you get leverage. You can then ask, is this desire rational? Is it within my power? Is it serving my resilience or undermining it? This isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about understanding its source, so you can address the cause, your own judgments, instead of just being swept away by the effect. Epictetus doesn't give you a magic pill. He gives you a discipline. Freedom isn't a state you reach and then you're done. It's a path you walk every day. You don't just wake up one morning and decide your desires are limited and then coast. The world keeps coming. New impressions, new temptations, new challenges to your peace. So freedom, in that sense, is more like physical fitness. It's not a trophy you put on a shelf. If you stop exercising, your strength fades, your flexibility tightens. What you built starts to diminish, and that's true for your inner autonomy too. Without daily attention, the old habits come back, the craving, the fear. They creep back in, the practice of examining your desires, of guarding that assent at the gate of your mind. That is the expression of freedom. It's not the reward at the end of the work. It is the work itself. In the Enchiridion, Epictetus compares studying philosophy to learning to write. You don't just admire the idea of beautiful penmanship. You practice the alphabet. You form the letters over and over until the skill becomes part of you. The principles of Stoicism, what's up to you and what's not, the discipline of assent, limiting irrational desire, that's your alphabet. And you practice it not in a quiet library, but in the noisy marketplace of your daily life. When a driver cuts you off, that's a letter to form. When you hear a piece of gossip, that's a word to spell. When you feel the pull to buy something you don't need, that's a sentence to write. The goal isn't to write a perfect epic once. It's to have a reliable, clear hand. A hand you can use for every communication life demands. So freedom is maintained through vigilance, a gentle, consistent vigilance. You're not at war with yourself. You're just paying closer attention. Each evening you might take a minute, a brief review, not a harsh critique, but a quiet observation. Ask yourself, where today did I successfully pause before desire? When did I feel a pull towards something irrational, and instead of being carried away, I examined the impression? It could be small. You wanted to snap at a coworker, but you chose a calm reply instead. You felt that anxious need to check your phone during a conversation, and you left it in your pocket. Acknowledge that moment. That small victory is you exercising your freedom muscle. It's proof of practice, and you might notice a moment where a desire hooked you, where you assented without thinking and felt that familiar tug on your peace. Look at that too, with curiosity, not judgment. What was the story I told myself in that instant? What did I believe I needed that was actually outside my control? This review isn't about guilt, it's about gathering data. It turns your day into your training ground. each experience, pleasant or difficult, becomes material. Material for refining your skill in the art of living freely. So here's a commitment for tomorrow. Choose one tiny Epictetan practice. Decide that with the first strong desire of your day, whether it's for that extra snooze, for a particular breakfast, for a specific reaction from someone as you leave the house, you will create that pause. Before you act, you will examine the impression. Is this within my power? Is this a rational want or a shout from a passing storm? You don't have to deny the desire. You just have to see it clearly first. That single, deliberate moment of examination, that is you walking the path. That is you choosing the long game of freedom. One conscious step at a time. The pursuit of inner freedom can seem like a solitary thing, but Epictetus taught in a school. He had students. There's a strength in shared inquiry. The final work, examining your own desires, that happens in your own mind, but doing it in total isolation, that can make the path feel steeper. It's easy to think your struggles are unique, that your craving or your fear is a personal failing, but talking about these things with others on a similar path, it does something. It normalizes the effort. It refines your understanding. When you try to explain a Stoic principle to a friend, you have to clarify it for yourself first. And when you hear how someone else applied the discipline of assent on a difficult day, it gives you a new lens. For your own experiences, this shared inquiry, it provides a gentle accountability, a reminder. The struggle for rational self-governance, it's not a lonely defect. It's a shared human endeavor. The Stoics saw this connection. They spoke of being citizens of the cosmos, bound together by the common possession of reason. Marcus Aurelius, he constantly reminded himself of his connection to others, to the shared human community. When you seek freedom by aligning desire with reason, you're tuning into that universal frequency. You're participating in a project larger than personal comfort. You're joining a community across time. People who have chosen to define their liberty not by what they can take, but by what they can consciously release. This connection, it transcends any physical meeting space. It's a fellowship of mindset. Today, this takes practical shape. Modern Stoic communities. Online forums, local reading groups, virtual meetups. These are places where people gather not to complain, but to support each other in the daily practice of limiting irrational desire. Living with more virtue, they share stories. Applying Epictetus in traffic jams, in boardrooms, they discuss interpretations of Seneca's letters. They offer encouragement when someone feels the old pull. Social anxiety, material craving. This isn't about creating an echo chamber or a group of emotionless robots. It's about finding a circle where the goal of inner freedom is understood, where the vocabulary of what's up to us and what's not becomes a shared language for navigating life. So here's a reflective prompt. Who in your life embodies this pursuit? Freedom through limited desire. It could be a friend genuinely unshaken by social pressure, a historical figure, an author whose writings model that inner steadiness, a public thinker who speaks about contentment and autonomy. Once you identify that person, that influence, ask yourself, what could I learn from their example? Could a conversation with that friend deepen my own practice? Could rereading that author's work provide a needed perspective? This isn't about finding a guru. It's about recognizing the guides, the fellow travelers who can illuminate the path you're already walking. Their presence, real or intellectual, it reinforces something. You are not building your freedom alone. You're adding your voice to a long conversation about what it means to live a life that is truly your own. Epictetus had this view of freedom. It's a kind of equation. Your freedom grows based on the desires you decide to limit. Or freedom is your awareness of what's up to you, minus your craving for what isn't. That's the structure. The dichotomy of control gives you the awareness. It draws that line between your own choices and everything else. The discipline of assent is the subtraction. It's where you pause and don't agree that something outside you is essential, and what's left is the focus on virtue. When you subtract the irrational wants, you're left with the space for courage, wisdom, justice, self-command. Those are entirely up to you, they're the foundation, so freedom is secured not by fulfilling desires but by removing them. The equation shows how. Take a job you felt enslaved by. Awareness asks, what's up to me? Your effort, your integrity, your attitude. Subtraction asks, what irrational desires can I limit? The craving for your boss's approval. The need for the title to define you, the fear of the risk in leaving. Subtract those, and what remains? The freedom to do your work well from principle, and the space to evaluate your next move calmly. Or a traffic jam, awareness, you can't control the other cars. Subtraction, limit the desire for the road to be clear, the desperate need to be on time. What remains? The freedom to use that present moment as you choose, instead of being a prisoner to frustration. The equation is a lens, a tool for analysis when you feel that tug of anxiety or that grip of want. So the challenge is to write your own one-sentence summary. What does limiting desire to expand freedom mean to you personally? That synthesis makes the idea yours. It moves it from an ancient concept to a living principle you carry forward. True freedom isn't about satisfying every want. It's about choosing which wants you let in. That's the quiet paradox in Stoic thinking. You expand your inner world by contracting what you demand from the outside. It works through a few clear steps. First, drawing that line between what's up to you and what isn't, and putting your energy only into what is. Second, guarding the gate of your mind, pausing to question every impression before you agree it's good or necessary. Third, turning shouting cravings into quiet preferences, so your peace isn't held hostage by outcomes you can't control. And finally, redirecting your deepest desire toward the only thing that's genuinely good. Your own character, your virtue. This isn't a philosophy of lack, it's one of profound inner wealth. It's about finding an autonomy that no market crash, no change, no opinion can take from you. Epictetus put it perfectly. He said no one is invincible who wants only what is within their power. When your wants align with your own reasoned choice, with your integrity, you become unassailable. For a modern audience in a world engineered to create infinite desire, this Stoic path is a radical act of liberation. It's reclaiming your mind from a marketplace that needs you to feel incomplete. So as we close, here's a simple prompt. Look back over these ideas. Choose just one principle to practice with intention this week. Will it be examining your next strong desire with that discipline of assent? Will it be reframing an aversion, something you fear, as just a preference you can meet with courage? Or will it be performing one small act of voluntary discomfort to prove your independence from a comfort you thought you needed? The practice is where the freedom is forged. We'd love to hear which principle you choose and what you discover. Your journey enriches this shared exploration. And if you found this valuable, consider subscribing for more conversations that turn ancient wisdom into practical tools. Thank you for your time and your attention.